It all started when I noticed the air in my house felt heavy, almost suffocating. I was getting headaches and constant fatigue with no explanation. Nights were the worst. Trouble sleeping, waking up exhausted. Even my cats seemed off, coughing and avoiding corners of the living room. I tried everything, cleaning, ventilating, but nothing worked. Then, one sleepless night, in a desperate search, I stumbled across a list of air-purifying plants. At first, I thought it was nonsense, but something about that list hooked me. The next day, I went to a nursery and bought a snake plant, a common, unassuming plant that promised to protect the home. I placed it in my bedroom, and that night, I slept like I hadn't in months. Peacefully, pain-free, deeply. The next morning, I woke up feeling an inexplicable relief, as if the air itself had changed. What I didn't know was that this plant was just the beginning of a transformation that would change my home and my life forever. I decided to go further and try the second plant on the list. It seemed simple but promised something incredible, eliminating dangerous pollutants that linger invisibly indoors. What happened after placing it in the living room shocked me more than I could have imagined. The air felt lighter, odors vanished, and even my cats started playing normally again. I couldn't help but wonder, could all the plants on this list deliver results like this? The pothos wasn't just a plant. It was like a sponge, soaking up everything I couldn't see but was harming us. Its leaves grew greener and lusher every day, and the energy in the house seemed to renew itself. Friends who visited commented that the space felt lighter, more welcoming, without even knowing what had changed. It made me think, could the secret to a healthy home really lie in these plants? What were they doing there, silently? I dug deeper and learned that the third plant on the list, the peace lily, had a special power against mold and humidity, which were persistent issues in my bathroom. I placed one there, not expecting much. But the results were astonishing. The musty smell disappeared in days, and the walls started drying out. The mirror stopped fogging up, as if the room could finally breathe. That's when I realized my house was responding to the life I was bringing into it. Each new plant brought a different surprise. My connection with these green leaves started to feel emotional, almost spiritual. One day, after placing the peace lily, I dreamed of my grandmother, who always loved plants, and woke up with a strange but comforting feeling. It was as if the plant wasn't just cleaning the air but also clearing trapped memories and emotions in the space. But this was just the tip of the iceberg, because the next plant came with an even greater promise of healing. The fourth plant I brought home was the areca palm, and it had an effect I didn't expect. The air became more humid and light, and my skin, which had been dry and irritated, visibly improved in just a few days. It had an invisible power, as if it balanced the entire environment. I remembered my grandfather, who had a huge one at his house, and said it brought peace. Now I understood why. While caring for the areca, I discovered that the fifth plant on the list, the spider plant, was famously used by NASA to purify air in space stations. I had to try it. I placed it in my office, where I always felt mental fatigue and struggled to focus. Within days, my mind felt clearer, my focus returned, and my sleep improved. This little plant seemed to nourish not just the environment but my mind as well. I kept going and placed the sixth plant, aloe vera, in my daughter's room, where she struggled with allergies and sleepless nights. The results were profound. She started sleeping through the night, free of sneezing or coughing. It was as if the aloe didn't just clean the air but also healed her body. I hadn't realized it yet, but these 10 plants were doing more than purifying the air, they were healing my family. The seventh plant, the rhapis palm, came into my home almost as a decorative piece, but I quickly realized it did far more than that. In the hallway, where there was always a strong smell of cleaning products, the environment completely changed. The odor disappeared, the air felt fresh, and I started feeling like I was walking through a forest every time I passed through. The plant was absorbing invisible toxic substances, and I didn't know how to thank it. Over time, visitors began commenting on the atmosphere of the house, the different energy, unaware that it all came from the plants. It was a silent secret only I knew, giving me a sense of power and control over the air we breathe. But one plant was missing, the one I knew could be a true remedy for chronic respiratory issues, the ficus. I placed it in my father's room, where he struggled with shortness of breath and constant coughing. What happened next made me rethink everything. Within days, my father was sleeping better, his coughing lessened, and he told me the air felt lighter. The ficus, a demanding and striking plant, stood like a silent guardian by his bedside, protecting and purifying the space. I wanted to understand. Could these plants really be as powerful as science claimed? And how did they do it without us even noticing? The last two plants on my list, fern and anthurium, had a unique aura for me. The fern reminded me of childhood, of my mother's and grandmother's homes, where plants were part of life and the air we breathed. I hung a large one in the living room, and within days, the space felt more alive. The air was lighter, the humidity more balanced, and a sense of freshness filled the room. The plant seemed to dance with the slightest breeze, bringing movement to a house that once felt still. The anthurium, on the other hand, was the final surprise. I always thought it was a bit much, but it had a unique talent: removing ammonia, an invisible and toxic pollutant, from the kitchen. I placed it in a corner of the kitchen, and within days, the unpleasant odor vanished like magic. The anthurium stood there, steady and vibrant, like a silent guardian of my home. At that moment, I realized plants weren't just decorations, were true invisible shields. It was only after all this that I decided to test the air quality in my home. The results stunned me. The indoor air was cleaner than any hospital's, without machines or filters, just living nature. I experienced a complete transformation, and now I want you to think: does your home need to learn to breathe again? Are you ready to let plants take care of the air you breathe? That's when I started to realize the power of these plants went beyond what I'd imagined. It wasn't just cleaner air, it was a complete shift in the home's energy, a balance that even affected mood and well-being. I felt calmer, more energized, as if the space had shed an invisible weight that had been draining me. This transformation had no scent, made no sound, but it was real and profound. I began noticing details I'd overlooked before: the fresh feeling in every room, the lighter air when I took a deep breath. Even the subtle smells of the house had changed. The plants had become part of my life, and I knew my family's health was improving every day. But I wondered, how many people still live in homes filled with invisible toxins, unaware? How many could save their health with something so simple and natural? Asterisk. As I was reflecting, I received a message from a friend struggling with insomnia. She asked if those plants could also help with sleep. That's when I realized the list I had started following had potential far beyond air purification. The plants held a greater, almost magical power that I needed to explore and share with anyone willing to listen. Each plant I began to discover had a unique story, its own personality, and a distinct role in purifying the air. I realized that snake plant wasn't just a filter but a symbol of protection. The pothos, silent and vigorous, seemed to absorb the unseen shadows. The peace lily, delicate, cleansed the dampness that trapped the past in the house. Together, they created a scene where nature reigned in an otherwise suffocating urban space. This connection made me see what few notice. The air we breathe indoors reflects what we allow. If we ignore pollutants, they silently erode us. If we make room for plants, they restore balance and life. This wasn't just a physical effect, it was an emotional healing. The clean air gave me back hope and the desire to care more for myself and my home. Yet, a mystery remained that I needed to unravel. How did these plants do all this? What was the science behind their power? And most importantly, how could I ensure these benefits were real and lasting? These questions led me on a journey of research and discoveries that would forever change my perspective. I learned that these plants perform a process called remediation, their ability to absorb, break down, and transform toxic pollutants into harmless components. They don't just clean the air. They also balance humidity and release oxygen. This explained why my skin improved, my mind cleared, and my daughter's allergy symptoms vanished. Asterisk. Additionally, science shows that having plants indoors reduces stress and improves mood, creating a healthier emotional environment. I realized that each plant was a small living ecosystem working for my overall well-being. This discovery not only confirmed my experiences but also opened the door to thinking about natural solutions for common health and quality of life issues. However, for these plants to fulfill their role, it's essential to care for them properly. Light, water, and placement are key. It's not enough to just buy them and leave them in a corner. I learned this the hard way when one plant started wilting and brought a negative vibe to the space. From then on, I dedicated myself to understanding every detail to maximize their benefits. Are you ready to learn to know? Now, imagine your home as a sanctuary where the air is clean, the energy is positive, and everyone's health is protected by these green guardians. It sounds like a dream, but it's entirely possible. These plants create an invisible barrier against pollutants and even respiratory illnesses. I've experienced this transformation myself and can assure you it makes all the difference. But the best part is that these plants are affordable and easy to care for. You don't need to be a gardening expert to transform your living space. With attention and care, they thrive and do the hard work of purifying the air. I started knowing nothing, and today I care for dozens of plants, each with its own purpose and story. This has given me a new perspective on life and my home. Still, I know many people fear making mistakes or failing to keep plants alive. I had that fear too. But let me tell you, the secret is to start, to take that first step. Every plant you bring into your home is an act of love, not just for the environment but for yourself. Want to find out how? Then stick with me until the end, because there's so much more to reveal. Another important thing I discovered is that some plants have amazing nighttime effects, like aloe vera and peace lily, which purify the air even while we sleep. This means better, deeper, and more refreshing nights. Science already proves that environments with plants boost serotonin production and reduce anxiety issues that affect millions and aren't always addressed properly. And the most impressive part is that they do this without anything artificial. No expensive devices or chemicals. Just life, just nature, working at its own pace. When I realized this, I understood I had found a natural, powerful way to care for my family's health. A method anyone can apply and see results from in just a few weeks. But there's one crucial detail. Few people know, the right combination of plants makes all the difference. It's not just any plant or any spot. I've tested various setups, and the ones I'm about to share with you are the ones that truly work, ready to transform your home and air forever. Then keep reading. The right combinations of these 10 plants create a perfect cycle of cleansing, humidifying, and renewing the air. For example, snake plant is great for bedrooms, while pothos and spider plant thrive in low-light spaces. Aloe vera and peace lily work wonderfully near the bed to improve sleep. Knowing where to place each plant is just as important as having them. I learned this through experience when I placed a plant in the wrong spot and saw no results. But once I made the right choice, I noticed quick, positive changes. You can transform your home into a healthy, pleasant environment with just a few of these smart choices. Nature provides everything. We just need to know how to use it. Now that you know the secret of air purifying plants, it's time to take action. Choose 1, 2, or all 10 to start this transformation. Trust me, the air you breathe defines your quality of life. Make the right choice today and start feeling the difference tomorrow. After everything I've shared, I want you to picture your home with clean air, your days feeling lighter, your health renewed, and your family protected. This isn't a distant dream, it's a reality within reach with these plants. I've experienced this transformation, and you can too. Don't wait. Subscribe to the channel, leave a comment with which plant you'll start with, and share this video with someone who needs to breathe better. In the coming weeks, I'll bring practical tips on caring for each of these plants and how to create your own air purifying garden indoors. And remember, the air you breathe shapes your life. Choose what you let in. Allow yourself this change, and live better, today and always. Nature is waiting to help you. Just take the first step.